Hello, hi everybody. Welcome to today's. I always never know how to pronounce that. PCAG, like I want to.
It just sounds terrible.
But our preschool coordinator advisory group. So welcome everybody to our meeting. And the first thing we're going to do is take our roll call of our members. So Stenbury Crisolago, Whitney Fowler, Christy Lewis.
Present.
Arlena Sheeran.
James, she's looking for her unmute.
Carlina, can you hear us? I'm not sure she can hear us. I'll chat here.
So I'm gonna go, we know she's.
Yeah, she's
I'm gonna
here.
go, Jennifer Walrod. Present. Angela Van Hoos. Here. Chris Westerfield.
Present.
Kim Witt.
Present.
And Susan Matthews. Thank you. Trying to get our attendance here. Great, thank you, and again, welcome from me. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Thomas Williams, who's the Early Learning Unit Administrator, to welcome us into today's meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Stevenson, and good morning, everyone. So welcome to our Preschool Coordinator Advisory Group meeting. This is one of the meetings out of many that I enjoy. I enjoy being in the company and the community with each of you to learn what's going on in our districts and also to see how we can support you at the SEA. And so as promised, I have asked Ms. Reeves. She is our Assistant Early Learning Administrator to come in and provide a report or update around our pyramid work. I'm very happy to announce that we are the 41st, Alicia, state to become a.
That is correct, the 41st state.
All right, so that's great news. We're happy to hear that, and Ms. Reeves will talk more around that initiative and kind of how we're planning to roll it out here at the SEA. So again, welcome, and I hope that your school years are going well. I believe the last time we met was in July. I think the weather was a little different, but anyhow, I'm just happy to be here, and I look forward to contributing where I can. So I'll turn it back over to Dr. Stevenson to lead us through our agenda.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Christy Lewis as reading our purpose and the review of our norms.
Good morning, everybody. Our purpose for our advisory group was created to advise the Office of Special Education and Early Learning on unmet needs and issues relevant to state-funded preschool. Sorry, is that feedback for y'all? Okay, I'll just keep going. The PCAG consists of 10 members who represent each region across the state. The members of this group are actively engaged within the work of state-funded preschool. These members provide valuable feedback and suggestions on critical issues that align with the OSIL priorities, and this feedback is used to help shape the guidance and support being provided by the OSIL staff. Our norms for our group is to be courteous, use the raise your hand feature, mute your mic when not speaking to eliminate background noise, exhibit generosity of spirit, respect different experiences and viewpoints. This group is a place to be honest with each other, to be prepared and ready, be ready to share views and thoughts, and honoring everybody's time, limit distractions and interruptions, and staying on topic. Thank you so much. I'll turn it back over to Dr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Christy. Now, the next part of our agenda is to review and get approval of the July 20th meeting minutes. So if you, these are sent out, they're in our drive as well. If you have a copy, if you don't have it in front of you, just take a few minutes to, if you want to jump in the drive and look over those for just a second. If you need a copy, we have some, we can share here on site if you want to look over those as well. So do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our July 20th meeting?
So
Have a second? Okay, got it. We're working together here. This is we're tag teaming this. My second time here. So,
All right, teamwork.
yes, teamwork. So is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. We are all good. All of our meeting minutes are approved. And then it says you chart the responses, so we're good. We are following this perfectly. Yes, yes. The next thing on our agenda is the Pyramid State Initiative. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Reeves to provide us with that update. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, you're welcome. I'm excited to be invited. And I'm just going to put one slide up just kind of to show you, we're focusing on the pyramid model at this moment. So give me just a second to share my screen. Okay, perfect. All right. So as Dr. Williams mentioned, we have become the 41st pyramid model state. And what that means is that we are working with our cross-sector early childhood partners to put together a state leadership team. And as was shared in your preschool coordinator leadership meetings, those state team members have representatives from KDE, the Governor's Office of Early Childhood, Kentucky Head Start Association, Early Childhood Regional Training Centers. Andrea Bartholomew represents us as our IDEA Section 619 coordinator, Child Health and Family Services, the Early Childhood Workforce, Kentucky Early Intervention. We have a local school district representation, Kentucky Parent Involvement Network, and the Department of Community-Based Services. And so why would we want to bring all of those people together to form a state leadership? So the goal is to enhance our capacity as a state to implement and sustain the pyramid model within early childhood systems through the development of a professional development system. So we want to be able to increase training capacity, model demonstration sites. We want to develop program coaches, practitioner coaches, and we want to make decisions for our children based on data. So across the state, we've been talking about the pyramid model for several years. Lots of pyramid model work began pre-pandemic. And so you can see the pyramid there, and our base is to start with an effective workforce and to develop through nurturing and responsive relationships, high quality supportive environments. And then as for some of our children with the highest needs, targeted social emotional supports and intensive intervention. And the goal is to create a system across the state so that from birth to 5, our children are receiving those social emotional supports. So the goal of the pyramid model is to ensure each and every child has the support, experiences, relationships, opportunities, guidance, and instruction to thrive in their social emotional development and learning. So what that looks like, the state leadership team will have, as a pyramid state, we have 4 essential structures, and that is to develop the state leadership team, to have a master cadre of program coaches. And right now within state-funded preschool, each of our early childhood regional training centers does have a pyramid model external coach to support your districts. Several of our districts across the state also are working to develop an internal coach to support the pyramid model internally within the district. And then we'll grow, and as programs grow, we'll work on having implementation sites across the state, and all of that is supported with database decision making. So to build our capacity, the state leadership team will plan and implement a sustainable cross-agency state infrastructure to develop sustainability and scale up our plans. So the pyramid model has benchmarks of quality that not only support at the local level, but support at the state level. We'll have the professional development network. We'll implement demonstration sites, and we'll use the data. So why state leadership team? What are their goals? What are their roles? So So they're going to make each team member makes a multi-year commitment. The team will meet monthly, and they'll use implementation and provide the supports for local and regional use of implementation science. Will ensure that there's system integration across all agency and will work to sustain initial efforts to scale up statewide. So that's your first essential structure. Your second, you'll have a network of program coaches and trainers. Those are, they will have expertise in the pyramid model implementation, professional development, and providing technical assistance. They're regionally located. They'll guide leadership teams and implementation sites. They'll guide practitioner coaches. They'll ensure data collection and guide data decision making, and they'll link directly to the state team. And then as we grow, as I've said several times, we'll grow into those implementation sites as we find across the state those sites that are fully implementing the pyramid model with fidelity. And so why would we adopt the pyramid model? Why would we want to be a state team? So what are some of the outcomes associated with that? We have intentional teaching of social emotional competence for young children across our state. We have an internal capacity to intervene effectively to support children with persistent challenging behavior. We enhance our partnerships with families. We work with our mental health supports to focus more on prevention. We reduce staff attrition and we increase job satisfaction, and we have an improvement in overall program quality. So that's kind of the how and the why that we got here with that. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Anyone have any questions? And I appreciated at our regional meeting, the in-depth presentation on it, and just showing resources. And they even shared an example of how, working just with Head Start, like there's just all kinds of collaboration and just talking through and what that's going to look like, but it's going to be systematic across the state. So just appreciating that and hearing you talk about it. And then I think the last thing you said was overall program quality. That's one of our one of our priorities is, quality programs, and then, what the state is looking at to measure that and how all of this ties together, that it's not something different or separate. We're all moving towards the same goal together. So I appreciate everything that you shared.
Right. And this team is just getting started. So as this team continues to meet and grow, we'll be able to share more.
I was just asked if there was any intensive districts within the group they're working with. You just started. You guys are intensive.
Yeah, we're going through that.
With all that.
See how it goes.
Okay.
Andrea, Paducah is as well.
Kim, you guys are too?
Everyone.
Okay.
And I know in our meeting, our Berea RTC meeting, they shared the term intensive. Like they said, when they were planning it, those are the words that they chose, that it doesn't need that. So just to say that out, because they said it's just not, it was just a term, but they understand now, what that is, but that doesn't mean that there's like.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah, they talk about that very explained it very well, and just said this was what it was and what it meant when we started, but now that because people just, that's just a word that's used, and that when you hear that you think, oh gosh, but that's not necessarily in this case what that means. So yeah.
Great. I was just curious to know. So.
And I just want to say, thank you to the districts who are opting in to support and to implement pyramid, and to also give a huge shout out to our pyramid coaches and our RTCs and those at the SCA who are training districts in order to support this very important initiative. So just want to say that out loud. It's just a thank you to all of you in regards to the support as we look forward to moving forward with the pyramid model. And I'm very excited around the state leadership team. I think we've had our first meeting, very productive and engaging meeting, very solution oriented, which I think is extremely important, right? Because it means that we're keeping a finger on what's important, right? And so just wanted to say that out loud, and I look forward to continuing this conversation in regards to pyramid and getting your feedback in ways that we can support you all in the districts.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And this, I think, comes at a time that, and I think everybody would agree, what we're seeing in the classrooms and the support that our young children is needed has shifted.
Right.
And, the support, and this is really, putting the focus on, what we need. And I know I was just having a conversation about kindergarten readiness this morning. And, we all know, and people can tangibly see like the academic part of it. And this is just as more important for kindergarten readiness, the well-being of our young children, families, and that support. It all just walks or goes hand in hand. So, yeah. So thank you for that. We appreciate the work. We appreciate you coming today and sharing.
And if I can just add that we have a few members that will be participating in NTI. This is a national conference with Pyramid. And so just to let you know is that we are enhancing our knowledge in regards to Pyramid, and we're continuing our education to make sure that we're bringing you the most updated information in regards to Pyramid, and to also be able to share what we're doing nationally in regards to Pyramid and what's happening in Kentucky.
Christy?
Yeah.
Dr. Williams, I'm so glad you said that. I was going to put a plug out there. That NTI conference, the staff that we took with us, we took a crew of about 5 of us last year to NTI, and it was the best early childhood conference on social emotional development, challenging behaviors, because it's people across the world that attend that. Australia, China, but then here in the United States. So it truly let us know that we're not on an island and that we're all on the same goal. So if you've got the PD funds there that you can allocate, when the conference opens, it sells out in about 2 days, it looks like. So I can't stress the importance of how beneficial that was to take a team to learn. Our RTCs are phenomenal at providing our supports, but it was another thing to be there and be encouraged by other early childhood educators.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Ms. Lewis. And also, we're going to participate in State Day. And so we're looking forward to State Day, where we'll have an opportunity to share with other states what we're doing in Kentucky, and also hear what other states are doing to kind of see how we can continue to elevate and support you all within districts. So thank you again, Ms. Lewis, for sharing that.
I think what you shared and what you've shared just here nationally and internationally, this is not something that is just like, we know like where our children are across the world, especially coming out of COVID. There wasn't a family that wasn't impacted by COVID in that, and what that looks like, and just the changing needs. So it's not isolated, because I know it can feel like that sometimes when you're in your school, in your county, and you're like, it just, oh my gosh, what is happening? But it's a much bigger conversation, and it takes everybody to come to the table to have those conversations to do what's best for our kids.
Let's continue the conversation, right? Let's continue to elevate this within our RTC leadership meetings, monthly meetings, and here in this meeting, right? Let's continue to share with the world what Kentucky is doing in regards to being the 41st state to implement Pyramid.
Any other questions, comments? All right, well, thank you, Ms. Reeves, for joining us. We appreciate your time today.
Well, and I want to thank each of you for supporting this work, for speaking out and celebrating the things that are happening in your districts as you're working in the work, because it's great things for kids, and our children are very fortunate to have leadership that saw this vision several years ago and then working tirelessly to sustain it through lots of different efforts. So but thank you. And I am actually in a meeting with our RTC coaches and directors learning more about the pyramid model today. So I'm going to sign off after I finish here. So
Great. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, so that's kind of a great shift into our next piece on the agenda is our priorities. And so we had talked about those last month, wasn't this month, at our last meeting in July.
Feels like last month.
But so if you have our meeting minutes, they're on page 3 from last time. If not, I'll share them. So we had narrowed it down to 2: obtain feedback from programs statewide on the new quality control piece that KDE is developing. So as our priority. That's still in the works because we know that's still coming out from KDE and what that looks like. But we're ready and thinking of the avenues of how to get the feedback. One of the things I know that we started from the last meeting, and hopefully you got a chance to do at your regional meeting, is to share what we had done here. They're in our notes. Somebody had outlined them out perfectly, what we were supposed to share, and it was a very nice piece here. But again, I think we will lean on that and have to lean on that for the feedback in this process to make sure that we're reaching every coordinator for feedback. I mean, we're all going to have a point of contact with every coordinator, because and I know, like in our meeting, if you have any feedback, contact Whitney or Sembra, and we very rarely, get after that meeting feedback. So it is having those meetings and taking that feedback face to face. I think that's going to be, really important for us as we hone in on that priority as we move forward with that. I don't know if you all have any updates on that piece of where KDE is in the quality control piece, where that's coming. So we're still. And we understand, like when you say, we completely understand that, but since it's on here, I just wanted to ask if y'all had anything to share.
I don't.
Okay, and that's fine, and I don't want y'all to think I put you on the spot for that, like at all. But because it says KDE, I didn't, and I know it's a process and a thing, but and we appreciate you all walking through that process and making sure whenever you bring something to us that it's been vetted in those conversations. So.
And I think it's important, and no apology needed. I think it's just important for the council to kind of keep us updated in regards to what we need to make sure that we're keeping up in. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, and then maybe we can debrief after this to make sure that we can bring that back to the next meeting.
And that just kind of like when she said that our overall program quality, again, it all going to roll into a big picture and what that looks like. And then the other piece of that is in the notes, it was captured, and Christy and I actually had this conversation last week or the week before when we were just looking at the agenda and talking about items is, it says, Christy Lewis noted that we needed to focus on developmentally appropriate practices as these projects and systems are developed and implemented. And so Christy and I just kind of delved into that a little bit and not losing the sight of that. And Christy, I don't know if you want to share, and again, I don't want to put you on the spot of just kind of, you just shared so nicely, like what it looks like for the big picture and all of this around our priorities.
I'm going to see if I can remember everything from our conversation because I didn't write it down word for word. And I apologize, I can't be there in person today. I know virtual is not always the easiest, so I appreciate that. When we talk about early childhood in the state of Kentucky, we're so blessed that we've always focused on developmentally appropriate practice. Sometimes I think along the way, developmentally appropriate practice gets blurred and we get in the weeds of what the next step is for our children. And as administrators and leaders, sometimes we push down what we're being pushed down with, but we can't ever lose focus on the continuum of growth from birth to preschool and how important those developmentally appropriate practices are. And in Whitney and I's discussion, we want to ensure that we support all of our leaders in knowing what developmentally appropriate practice looks like. We have our Kentucky regs that ensure we're meeting those. And, for instance, not having dittos in classrooms. There are so many ways to increase fine motor skills and not having to use a ditto. There are so many ways to support language and literacy. And with the LETTERS program, that is helping so many of our teachers know what high quality learning looks like. But if we don't, as leaders, keep that as a priority, I'm scared that we can get to a point where we're checking a box and using a tool that's not necessarily developmentally appropriate. So that's my soapbox in conversation. And we've worked really hard in our state. So
Yeah, no, that sums up like just the conversation that we were having, just the importance of that. And knowing that our preschool coordinators across the state are at varying levels. And that's at no fault of anyone's, but that's just, I mean, I've met preschool coordinators before and they're like, hey, I came in on Monday and they told me I was doing this. And, I was, over here and was over, transportation, and now I'm over preschool. And no fault of anybody. I mean, but that's just the world that we live in. And, but making sure that there's supports for all program coordinators in this process, even look at the quality control piece, where you're coming in as a coordinator, what does that look like for you? And what questions do you have? Because it may not be, feel comfortable to ask a question at your regional training meeting because everybody else seems to be on the same page. And that's okay. You don't know what you don't know. And if you're in the system, and if you're in the school system and you're working in that position, we're going to have the assumption that you have a heart for kids. So is it skilling you up on this is what we mean by this? Because kind of, in our conversation that Christy and I had is sometimes I think when people see an opening of that necessarily don't have the lens of early childhood or being in that there are a lot of things out there that you can buy that people will think, well, this is going to get children ready for school. And when you sit and look at them through the lens of early childhood and really have those conversations, they're not. But if you don't have that background knowledge or no one has sat down with you, it's hard to maneuver through that. And again, at no fault of anyone's, it's just where we are. And I think vendors see early childhood as an easy, like we can target. Yeah, it is like that's a word like that we can, and they, parents, we can make your child, read by the time they're 3. No, you can't. Like that's a brain thing, but it looks good and because people want their children to be ready and want them to be successful. And I 100% get that. But like, how can we as a group support that and put those in place even through our regional training centers to support coordinators wherever they come in, wherever they are in a non-intimidating, but because it is, it's hard to ask questions, especially if everybody in the room is agreeing or nodding and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know and I don't want to ask that question. But just to be able to have that support system.
Yeah, I would like to say that not just your coordinators and like central office administrators, but even your principals, because if we have preschool classrooms in elementary schools, oftentimes they're the round peg trying to fit into the square hole for that school. And I've had experience myself when I was a teacher of a principal asking me to do exit slips, with my preschoolers to collect data. And I had to educate and, kind of battle that.
Yep.
And some preschool teachers are overwhelmed it's a lot going on. So they'll just give in because they just need to not have that issue, right? So I think, really just informing all of the stakeholders that have a part in the preschool classrooms and then what we're doing with children.
You bring up a really valid point, and I'm speaking in regards to I've been I've worked inside of an elementary school, worked with preschool, and I've worked in a standalone. And from my experience with working in preschool, being housed inside of elementary school, is that the principal wants preschool to be included, right? Because we talk about inclusiveness, but it's an appropriate, like when is it appropriate and how do you include preschool? I think it's extremely important. So I love what you say when you say that we need to not just support preschool coordinators, but also support principals, support superintendents, support chief academic officers, so they understand what inclusiveness means in regards to preschool.
Teachers don't need to be sitting through professional development that does not apply to them.
Agreed.
For hours and hours.
Agreed.
It's not fair to
Agreed.
them. And they have a lot on their plate that other teachers don't, such as home visits
Yep.
and being their case managers
That's true.
and, so there's a lot, it's just a different
Yep.
bird.
And practices are pushed down instead of pushed up.
Absolutely.
And we see that a lot. And not just in Kentucky, right? This is something that's happening throughout the nation. So thank you.
And I think too, for developmentally appropriate practices, we also have to look at, there are children, in our classes right now, they're on a 6-month level. And their manipulatives and their toys are going to look different, and that's okay, because that's what they need.
Yeah.
And then for our children that are, what would be considered ready with enhancements, on the Brigance, then in that terminology, their puzzles, their activities may look a little bit differently because that's what they need to challenge them. And just reminding people that continuum of development is going to look different, but that's what we mean by developmentally appropriate practice. It's not just the 4-year-olds that are coming that we're talking about. We're talking about meeting the needs of all of the students in our classrooms. And I think that's even kind of can be a different conversation with building level and even with teachers saying like, this is what's going to meet, but it looks different. It looks like, a toddler toy. We're not going to label it as a toddler toy. We're going to label it as the toy or manipulative that is needed to meet the needs of that student in your class. Like that's simply how we have to look at that. And if another student comes up and says they're playing with a baby toy, that you have the language and the words to say that this is not a baby toy. This student in our class is not a baby. This is their material right now, and they're working with it. And being able to, even with our students, to our, the adults that come in the classrooms. So I think all of that is wrapped up into like what quality, because if we're meeting the needs of every student in our class, we are providing a quality program in that, whether they're, developmentally at 6 months or, are going to roll into, elementary and get a gifted label because they're reading by the time that they exit. Preschool. So I think it just wanted to have that conversation and to just kind of plant that seed, in all of our minds, like as leaders on this group, what that looks like going forward and, providing that support to other program preschool coordinators and then those at the school level that do the programming, administrators, and even our communities of what that looks like. And then in our last meeting, we talked about like as districts, what we did personally to monitor that quality. And we had mentioned things like a self-study, pyramid model and teapot. We talked about that, the class, the portions of the ECHRs, quality improvement plans. So again, I think in this structure of, what KDE is creating, there is still that for districts to have the autonomy of keeping those things and how that, like it's a framework, but how this fits into the framework that you can do, that you're showing, and that you have data that's showing that this is increasing the quality and how you're using, using that information as well. And I mean, it could even also, that wasn't mentioned, what we said self-studies, but even those, teacher and family surveys that we have to do by our regulations, when I first started, I'll just be honest, we did those because you could go, oh, yeah, we would get the information and look at it, we had questions. But then if we're going to do it, then let's word the questions to really make sure that we're gathering the information, from families. And, we definitely need to work on our, return rate. But for those that we get, listening to parents and about, what their child's learned. Like, how did your teacher communicate? Learning how families are really getting their information, how they felt, empowered. That's all quality. That is all building the quality of our program. So I don't know if anybody, we've done that. I mean, it's been, the last 10 years, we tweaked that, or we may tweak a question, but I really feel like that we're getting some good, information from families about, what their child's learning, what it is, that they would like to see improved. And again, I'll be honest, over the last couple of years, the biggest thing of that is full day preschool, universal for my 3-year-old. That we're getting that input. So I mean, and I don't think our families are watching what the state's doing and not the news. I mean, this is something that they're feeling just at our community level. So I don't know if anybody else has thought through any other quality pieces or has any, information just to kind of go as we think of building that framework, what that looks like for us together, that information.
I'd say just from the seat of the 619 coordinator, so the special ed preschool person, when I go out into meetings across the country, meet other 619 coordinators, talk about preschool, everyone is very interested in our inclusive programming because they don't actually have that in their areas or their states. Their 619 classrooms are fully students with disabilities, and they are separated from their same age peers. And that is something that, as we talk about quality and we talk about the resurgence is the wrong word, but the increase of behaviors, the increase of social emotional delays and disorders because of the collective trauma we have all lived through. And kids are just changing. And I think that we have to continue to keep that inclusivity in mind when we talk about our programs and our quality pieces. I think it's something that the state-funded preschool program in Kentucky was built upon inclusivity. It was built upon kids learn better together. Now, are there certain situations? Are there certain students that may need a different place? Yes, that is something that happens. That's something that should be carefully thought out and carefully discussed. But when we think about a nationwide landscape, Kentucky preschool program is held to a very high standard. They know what you're doing. They know how you're doing it. They come to me and they say, hey, when we talk about this, how's this going to go? How can we get this to work? Because they're fighting to get those kids with disabilities into elementary schools for the kindergarten programs even, or for the community funded preschool program that they may have. That's more than a mom's day out program, but less than a state run program. How did you get your legislative body to give you money to do this? And I'm like, well, I don't know how we do that. We're gonna keep doing it. But I think as we move forward, keeping that in our minds as a group, that while it's hard and it's ugly and sometimes we want to pull our hair out, what we're doing for our kiddos is held in such high esteem across the country. And Kentucky can't say that about a lot of things, right? I mean, we're 50th in health or something like that. So we have to hold ourselves up high where we can. And I think as you're talking about universal preschool and offerings for different ages and trying to figure out and find the gaps to fill for those full day programs, those are conversations that we need to keep in mind, that while we're trying to get to a full day universal program for everyone, some states are still fighting to get those kids with disabilities even to spend an hour in a regular classroom, even to spend time with same age peers. So I just wanted to know that you all know and feel that. Because when I go, I'm going to the National Association for Special Education Directors meeting here in a couple weeks. And when I go to the 619 meeting, I will be bombarded with, hey, let's figure this out together. Especially now that we have pyramid state. We're a pyramid state now. That even puts us up even more, that we are moving forward for our students. So I wanted you all to know that and to feel that when it gets dark and ugly, that, yeah, no, we're doing okay. We're doing things good for kids. So that's something that I think is to keep in mind for sure.
And I appreciate you sharing that for sure. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that. I think that's a very powerful statement to remember.
We are currently 7th in the country for inclusive practices. And that is And I think as far as territory, the territories typically come first. So Guam is like number one, the Virgin Islands, which I'm trying to convince Thomas to let's go on a trip. I think we need to visit that program in the American Virgin Islands. I mean, you know, I think this whole group needs to go on a trip to see that great inclusive program there. But as far as states, Colorado is in front of us, and I believe maybe Vermont, and that's it. So the national landscape.
The National Institute for Early Education Research published a study about this equity, and where some of this data is pointing out that Kentucky is truly doing great things in terms of inclusive practices in preschool special education.
And we were definitely highlighted within that publication in regards to Kentucky and us moving forward with a high quality inclusive preschool program.
Is
So
that something that you could share?
yes, we can share.
I
Mhm.
think,
Yeah.
I guess my comment about all of that would be that because of the needs of the children that we're seeing now, teachers are feeling very,
Very
Yeah.
much.
you know,
Yeah.
overwhelmed, but discouraged, yes. And I have heard, you know, them say things like, why do I teach an inclusive classroom, but then they go to kindergarten and they're pulled into
Yes.
HC where there's
Yep.
10 kids,
Yep.
5 adults.
Mhm.
You know, and I have 17 and.
Absolutely. Mhm.
So I think sharing something like that article would be
Okay.
incredible to show them that this truly is,
It's
you
working.
know, the best practice for these children.
And I think that's something good for us to capture and share with our regional training centers and our other coordinators at our next meeting. I think it's one of those bullets that would be, I mean, if you share that,
Yes.
we can have that. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a great thing for us to share.
Every year, some of our OSEP, our Office of Special Education program funded TA centers, they put out different statements and different, data things. You love the charts, Chris. Lots of data things. So I can share some of those as well, that are current as far as what's going well. And like you said, Jennifer, I think it's really important, to remember that when it's hard, when you're in the middle of right now, Archipaloozas, right? We're getting all these kids evaluated and identified, and we're having meetings every day, and it's a mess. And it's really, exactly, it's really easy to forget why.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that this is a why. And, Thomas or Dr. Williams and I have talked a lot about raising our voices and raising our arguments and talking more about these things. And I think this shows us we need to. Your teachers need to hear these things from us. You all need to hear these things from us. And I think that's something that we need to take back and really have conversations about.
Yeah, I agree. And I definitely really appreciate you bringing the teacher's voice into this, right? Is that not taking away it being difficult, right? Like we sit in that seat of understanding. And so, and just to let our teachers know that we are standing side by side in that seat, and that we understand and we're advocating for our preschool program for everyone. So thank you, and please continue to do that, to bring your teachers' voices to these meetings, which would definitely inform how we move forward with here at the SEA.
And I appreciate you bringing that up, because as you were talking, I was like, that could be like the conversation from our county as well, like what Jennifer was sharing, to be able to, for you to acknowledge that as well. I think as we all were thinking, it's going to acknowledge it. So thank you for doing that from your all's level, from your viewpoint.
So from you all's level, that you've acknowledged this, what's in turn being discussed to support local districts?
Absolutely. So I think at this point it's getting the data and having a conversation like we're doing now to come up with next steps and to see how we can better support districts. So just know that it is a conversation. This has come up several times, And we are discussing internally, how do we support and address this? So hopefully soon we can maybe come back with next steps. But right now we're just kind of gathering information. And I think, again, you all bringing the teachers' voices into this meeting is definitely helping us as we continue to move forward with supporting districts.
I mean, I struggle as a coordinator supporting teachers
Yeah.
at this point
Yeah.
because of,
Yeah.
you know, two people
Yeah.
in a classroom that's
Yeah.
much different than it was when I started this job.
I get it. And a lot of this has to do with reg changes, right? Like looking into the reg. And so we know that's a larger and a longer process. But right now coming up with a short-term and a long-term plan. And so that's definitely what we're looking at in regards to this.
And I think the point of teacher voices, because I think that's,
Yeah,
we all
it's very
do that. But I think when we go to our regional, you know, training meetings, and if we don't get a lot of feedback from the coordinators that are there, or it's quiet, but reminding them too that this is an avenue or a place for them to bring their teacher voices. Because you know, and I think everybody has a feeling that we're all probably hearing the same conversations, but I think having that collective conversation and just hearing it and knowing that that's a place where they can bring teacher voices as well.
Yeah.
And then that we will bring them there, even with our own district,
Yes.
with other
And
voices.
today, and I think that shows action, right? I think that's not just talking about it, is that you all are, you know, elevating, you're taking the information and the data and bringing it to us. And so that shows action in regards to how we want to move forward with this. And again, sitting in the teacher seat, you know, I've been there, we've been there. We definitely sit in the seat of understanding and just know that we are doing all that we can to support.
Yeah, I think that's a great discussion, because I think as a program coordinator, as we talked about, you're dealing with trying to explain why you can't do an exit slip. And you're, you know, like you're doing these and you're hearing from your teachers. And so you're, you know, the support that you need might be this, but it's also knowing that we know that you bring teacher voices as well. And this might be a way to support them, because it's kind of sort of two-pronged in a sense. Because you have to know how to talk to if it's your superintendent, or like, this is what's appropriate in preschool and holding true to that. But then also, you know, definitely, you know, understanding and hearing your teacher voices and bringing that. I think that's a great thing. Great. So any other questions about you know, just thinking about quality, what that looks like through the DAP lens? And Christy, I didn't need to put you on the spot there, but you did great. I should have given you a heads up, but it was I think I maybe thought I did, so I apologize. It's been a busy time. Yeah, so I think that those are important. And I think too, looking at development appropriate practices, that it goes beyond literacy and math. Like developmentally appropriate, it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's from their day that they come in, or when they walk in the door to the time they leave, and then after, you know, just parent interaction, all of that. So that was our first priority. And our second priority that we talked about in July was obtain feedback from programs statewide on COS implementation. So if you, you know, had a chance at your regional meeting to talk about that, to gather anything, that was probably kind of new, like it was kind of before everybody probably got rolling in it. So does anybody just have any feedback, even from your own district, about how things are going? Is there anything glaring? Everything?
And from our group, or our RTC meeting, we heard a lot of positive things, actually. That maybe it was a little less daunting than they anticipated it being. I know that my teachers have gotten creative on getting the parents' input through. They created some survey information or forms or whatever, and they're taking those to home visits and having those conversations and interviewing parents so that they can get that feedback. And kind of teaching them about COS. So I feel like as we're getting into that second year of implementing it, you know, we're still ironing out some kinks and whatever, but moving dates was huge. That I feel like that was definitely a plus, and everybody was happy to see that happen. So I've just heard good things so far.
The date moving back, I think, too, was kind of
That was very helpful, yes.
The only thing that I will bring up, we talked about at our RTC meeting, our leadership meeting, was doing the initial, again, whenever you place a child in special ed,
Mhm.
and then you do the access whenever they leave
Mhm.
the special ed piece. I think, we have a workaround that, you're gonna delay your COS entry until, November, which may not give you the same picture of a child as far as August to November,
Sure.
as far as growth piece, but that's the.
Yeah, I think that's a bit tricky.
Mhm.
So for that planning, to think about it, to know, kind of thing. But yeah, I think that I've talked with others about that as well.
We did talk in our last meeting about going from a form into like a model.
Yeah,
Not yet.
not yet. I seize time and money, friends. We have neither. So that is something we are seriously discussing, and I will share with this group. We are losing Sarah, who is our IC contact. She'll be the 5th person who's had their hands in COS. So we're getting a brand new person on that end. So there'll be another rebuilding with her or him, whomever it may be. But they've not yet been hired. Sarah's last day is the 31st. So we will have to start that battle again. That's okay though. I think that's where we want to end up. I think it would make life a whole lot easier for everybody to get there. One thing about the form, and I think I said this at the leadership meetings that I was at a couple of them, and I've probably hit you all with it at some point, trying to make sure that there's only one record for each kiddo. I mean, right now when I sort it to do my data entry for federal reporting, I'm only sorting by IEP date. So these are not kids that have gotten a COS and then gotten an IEP and gotten a new one. That's not these children. These are kids who have the exact same record, the exact same period. There's 2 or 3 of them. And they're duplicates. Like a duplicate tab in some instances. Now, that's not everybody. It's not widespread, but it just makes the data mining a little bit more difficult. But that's something that this is the first time we've done it. We're going to run into roadblocks. We're going to run into things that happen. But so far, so good, right? So far, things are looking really nice for us. We have a really robust data set, which I'm excited to see. This year's will only be the 4-year-olds that were last year and exited last year for the federal reporting. And we will have access to get you guys access to those reports and those numbers and things for all of your students eventually. And that's got to get the federal reporting done first, because that's what we get. That's our timeline or our deadline. But after that, I'm hoping to be able to dig into some of the other data that's there, because it's a lot. It's a lot of information. And I know several of you have done some of that yourselves. And one thing I wanted to clear, or to make sure everyone, with the data, so for federal reporting, they have to have an entry and an exit. That interim, that winter, that middle period is district decided. Districts can say, you only do an entry and an exit. Is that best practice? No, because you're not going to see the growth. But that interim piece, or that winter, would be for new kids, new enrollees that come in, that would be their entry. Or if you as a coordinator decide, we're going to do a fall, winter, spring, like TS Gold requires a fall, winter, spring a lot of times, that type of stuff. That's fine. But all we pull for federal reporting is entry and exit. The word interim, I think, is messing some people up. So we'll have some conversations maybe within this group next time, brainstorm some ideas, think about what we could call it besides winter. That I think that interim is making some people not understand necessarily what it is. Something to that effect. I mean, I think that's something we can think about for next time. It has, and did not anticipate that. So that's a good, unintended consequence there. But as we move forward, I'm excited to see the growth that we're seeing within this process. Our data looks different than it did before, and you can really get into it and pinpoint some things that I'm excited about looking deeper into once I get the federal reporting done. Once that's out of the way, I can really start to play with it and see what we can find out from it.
That's really good.
I'm excited. I'm a data nerd. So.
That's really good. All right. Any other feedback about the COS implementation. So we'll have, like, as a priority, we'll talk about that in January at our next meeting, because we'll have had that first
Yeah.
window closed and bring back and.
And it is possible, I will not commit, but it is possible that I could have data to share for the federal reporting. That piece is due in February. So I may be able to share it with you all at that point. We'll have to wait and see, get clearance from all the people I have to get clearance from. But that's something that I could be able to share with the group.
That's exciting. Do you feel, as, like, I don't know how to say this without it, but with our previous system and this system, do you feel more ownership?
Yes, 100%.
Over just-
100%.
That's what, when I hear you talk and learn about seeing the difference in things, but then, a different tech person and building the system and having that, it just feels like that there's more, like you're in it more, the data.
Oh, yes, yes. I feel much more ownership. I also feel protective of it. And I feel that we're getting more and more consistent data. Now, yes, we've had some errors and we've had some kids that don't match, and we found some things that aren't right. That's going to happen with any data set that you look at. But, we were losing 40% of our data before. We're not losing 40% of our data right now. Not nearly close to that. And what we have been losing or missing is incidentals, or it's kids that left. So I don't have an exit rating for that child. It's a legitimate missing. It's not just because they weren't there. So I think that's something, as we go through the process, we'll really get to see more of that as we get more comfortable. Our teachers get more comfortable. You all do with putting things in the system, and it becomes more of our daily flow. I think we'll really start to see some increases there.
At a district level, I don't have to wait for them to generate all the information.
Yes.
I can see what's happening. So,
I'm glad you said report. That reminded me, there are now 2 reports in there. They dropped the second report during leadership meetings, and I didn't know that it was happening. So I kind of got hit out of the blue with it, but it's the longitudinal report. So it will take you, the first report tells you completion. Yes, they've done. No, they're not. The second one is the longitudinal report that can tell you, it won't do much good right now. At the end of the school year, it will, because you'll get to see those 3-year-olds moving over. That's the one we'll start to pull our data from for entry and exit, because right now we just have the 4-year-olds with the information that we're using. But that's exciting to be able to have that. You can really see the real span of growth in our kiddos.
That's right.
It really is.
That's right. I mean, that,
Yeah.
The district level, for sharing that, absolutely. It does. I mean, just hearing you talk, it just seems like there's more ownership for all of us in that, in real time, and being able to do it and seeing it and not waiting. I think
It's huge. It really is.
And I mean, to be honest, and to like it's shifting, I mean, it's just overall for teachers doing it, it's not as a heavy lift as what the other one. I mean, it's just not. I mean, it is not. And I think, talking about our teacher voice and things, having those, because whenever you switch with the new system, it was conversation, you got to trust that it is. And I think that our teachers and our staff are seeing that it really is that this is what we're asking. Like, we're not going to come out and ask this of it. Like, this is where you go. And after that first year, they really, this is really it. Yes, like this is it, but we need you to, get the family input. Like, how can we do that? Like, in making it, as accurate and as what it's supposed to be in there for that child. But yes.
And they see the value of it this year.
Good.
They're excited. I've been meeting the parents to find out, see what they say, and see if we're on the same page.
That's great to hear.
Can we have such and such people to fill out?
Yeah.
Survey? More.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I think it's just that it's a different system, it's a different process. We're moving in that direction. It sounds like it's benefiting everybody.
And we'll continually update. We'll continually make, tweaks and changes as we move forward, and rely on this group to bring feedback to us as we move. Typically that would be a summer situation where we update and send out new information, keeping that in the back of our heads as we move forward, what we can change to make better. Some things take time and money that we don't have. Other things we can make quick, easy changes.
Yeah. Any other feedback or comments about the COS? So the next thing on our agenda is just an open discussion. And so we did this last time, just to whatever, what other feedback that we got at our meetings or things that have come up in our district. And just to review from our last meeting, just some of those highlights of the discussion that we had, that the Head Start full utilization, it was due on September 15th. So hopefully everybody got that in and got that submitted as well. And then Andrea had asked if we knew of any new coordinators when you meet in your groups to send them to Andrea, just to make sure that like we're doing double duty to make sure that we're capturing everybody in that. That the new HI and VI eligibility forms are an independent campus now, just reiterating that those are living there. And then one of the things that you had mentioned, there was an opening for an all-stars coordinator at the department, and just any updates or there's anybody.
Yeah, so we have hired Jennifer Hagan. She is our preschool quality coordinator for the state. She was initially part of our early learning ARP team. And so she transitioned into this role maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
But very new to this role, but not new to the department.
Or to preschool.
Or to preschool, absolutely, or to preschool. So we're very excited for her to start this position. And hopefully we can have and bring her to this meeting to introduce her and to kind of talk around her work and what she plans to do for the state.
That's what I was going to ask, something that we started doing in a meeting that I'm in, because there's been different roles. It's just have a role highlight in the meeting. And so I think it just helps, because, there's a lot of people here and just even job titles change and like, what is that? So maybe that's something if she's up in January, we want to do, we could start just to kind of give an idea of that role highlight. Exactly
Absolutely.
What you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we can definitely, as a next step, have her possibly come to the next meeting to talk more than, so she can, for herself, talk about who she is, what she's done, and how she plans to support quality for the state.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just get us
Yep.
as a group, and then
Great
know
idea.
a face when if she goes out to regional meetings.
Absolutely.
Know a face,
Yeah.
and help make her feel
We can do that.
perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
So the other things just from our agenda, I know that you mentioned the federal reporting, just to get an update. I know that was it was a DMS.
Oh, the DMS, yes.
Yes. Like where,
16 business days, T minus, till OSEP visits us.
Okay.
They're coming November, 6th, 7th, and 8th, I
Yeah.
believe. We are in full dress rehearsal mode. We call it the interrogation. Super fun. But it's opened our eyes a lot, not just preschool. Because the 619 program, of course, IDA is 3 to 21. 619 program is a very small piece of the IDA general supervision pie, but we are included in all of the conversations. OSEP has been very vocal about including us, which I think is great. I'm always happy to sit at a table with people, and it's been really nice to see things across our office. Things that happen in preschool that also happen in K-12 or, in Dimmer with monitoring, how we can fold ourselves into that, or, how the guidance that the DIP division puts out, what preschool needs to put up to be, included in those things, in those guidance pieces. That to me has been really beneficial to see kind of where as an office, we kind of silo ourselves. We all do it. And I think preschool gets siloed even more because you have to take time to learn and understand preschool. People, you can't, like we were talking earlier about people that get pulled off the street to be a preschool coordinator. It takes a minute to learn. And so now we have had all of this time to really talk, and I've been able to teach them, and they've been able to teach me, and as the 619 coordinator. So that's been really, really helpful. But we are very close to the finish line. We're all going to be in a coma on the 9th. There will be nobody here to answer your phone calls. We'll all be hiding, I'm telling you. It's been a really long time, but we're all anticipating the end of it and being able to kind of showcase what we're doing. Like I said, it's a struggle, but it'll be all right. They're going to be 2 people on site, and the rest of it virtual.
So there'll be several people on site, others virtual. But what I can say around this process that it has been a good way for us to look at how we can improve as an office and how we can improve as a unit. And so, although, monitoring is never fun for anyone, but when you look at the pro of being monitored, you look at how can we better improve for our office and ultimately for the state.
Absolutely. It's really given us lots of good ideas
Great idea.
on how to blend things together to really help support all kids across the state. It really has.
Absolutely.
We don't anticipate, so the states that have preceded us in monitoring, it's taken quite some time to get their reports, to get their findings, to get their information back. So we don't anticipate knowing anything necessarily for quite some time. But I think as a group, we've learned a lot that we can already go ahead and start making steps for some improvement across our office.
Did you want to say, and I could have totally just made this up, but in our last meeting, could they interview a coordinator?
They could.
Potentially, so it could be,
Yeah.
I was thinking that I felt like in those days, you all just didn't speak, we weren't sure, but there.
We're still not sure. Yeah.
So we're still not sure. It appears that at this moment, you all will probably not be interviewed.
Okay.
But at any chance, if that is the case, you won't be caught off guard, right? We will definitely let you all know in a
When
timely
we know.
manner, when we know in a timely manner, if and when OSEP decides to interview.
I was gonna say, I may have said that when I presented these, thinking that you all had said that. And
That's true.
Okay.
That's true. It could-
I was like, it could be, it was like,
They-
they weren't sure.
Yeah.
but it
They have
could
a-
be-
They have a plan and they have a process, but that doesn't mean that they won't divert from it.
Yeah.
So we have to be ready for that.
And we will definitely let you all know
Yeah.
if, or when, if, they decide to interview you all.
Yeah, or as individuals. Yeah, as much as we can, for sure. And it's gonna be a good visit. I have a feeling it's gonna be a good visit. I'm excited for them to come. I'm excited for it to be over with.
Quickly. So
It's
good
taken
luck.
up my life.
Good luck with everything. We know in our January meeting, a few
Right?
But I know leading up to it in just a few weeks, so good luck with everything. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I had just written out some notes for open discussion, just to kind of follow up from that. But then also, we had talked at our last meeting as well about advocacy issues and then our priorities. And just following up on that, and one of those examples, like one of our previous priorities was the relationship with First Steps and I know it's not called First Steps anymore, the name just went out of my head. Sorry about that, yes. And the
Kentucky Early Intervention System, KEIS. They're saying keys.
I knew
That's just like the sheet we get.
Retrieve that. But we just talked about the communication that with the LEAs. And again, for us to make that a priority was really hard because it just really depends on the relationships and what that looks like in counties. But we do think that that's an advocacy piece that would support coordinators in that. So just, circling around to the meeting that when you went, were there anything that popped up that you felt like we could look at as advocacy piece, as not necessarily being that priority, but anybody bring anything up that around those topics that it would just put on our radar and possibly think as advocacy? We'd also talked about teacher caseload. It's being an advocacy piece, and like you were talking about, that's a change in the reg. So that's a heavy lift, and that's not something that'll happen. But that is an advocacy piece, because I think you said the more that we are talking about it, just like what Andrea said, the more the voices are to it, that does put meat behind it, and that we could advocate for through this group. As the advocacy piece, as things come up, and please feel free to bring that feedback here and we can talk through those. And it may be like on our agenda, the priorities, and we could put maybe an advocacy, and just so we can kind of have those conversations as well. I know one thing for us is that we're continually talking about the transition from preschool to kindergarten, and what that looks like, especially with our students that have some significant needs and what that looks like. And I see some heads nodding and what that looks like. So again, I think, and that looks different in every county and what that looks like and what our programs look like. But I do think, is that something that we could talk about as an advocacy piece? Those are the kinds of things that I think that we run into that look different in our counties, but how can we support those and keep those on the radar? of supporting our teachers and our, our buildings and our program. So we can get that and just put an advocacy so we can have those conversations as well. And then I was just curious, knowing that we're getting close to our, December, not close to December 1, but getting closer than what we were.
I mean,
it's coming.
It's coming.
Just overall looking at numbers, like what you're feeling like in your county. Are your numbers up? Like, what are you?
I'm at 70 kids right now.
Oh, wow.
And, it's not December 1.
But
So,
we've hit our December 1 number from last year already.
yeah, we have to.
I'm up.
Kim's up.
Down.
You're down.
But you were talking, transportation is I remember you sharing that at our last
The
meeting.
big,
And I think that I think is definitely something that, and you can't control that. But I remember you talking about that last meeting. Yeah. And again, those are where those things are different in each county. And to advocate though, as a group that, families need transportation to get to school and, understanding the ins and outs of every county and the funding and all of that. But, for everybody to share that people are not in their app or they're getting up and what is that like for you? Is that transportation what's keeping your numbers?
Pretty
Yeah.
much. We don't have enough drivers to cover the regular routes.
That's
You
a
know,
problem.
and they pay $20 an hour and you get full benefits if you work so many days. So it's not that they haven't.
it's on, yeah.
Right, that's what I mean, but it's that we not, those are things, right, and within a county, you can, if there's a county next to you that offers more of a, people, it just is a constant because there's incentives for that across the state in various counties and things.
Mhm.
And Jefferson County, I saw that in the news, like with their transportation, like what that looked like in their delayed start of preschool and all of that. So, but it looks like that's what's impacting, unfortunately, numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We didn't get to offer transportation because of lack of bus drivers. We just absolutely did not have bus drivers. And I fought and advocated for it, but in the end I lost. We did not get to transport preschoolers. I thought it would impact our numbers more than it did. And it didn't, but we offer full day, and I think that was part of it. I think if we'd been a half-day program, it would have impacted us a lot more because then some parents would decide that wasn't worthwhile, is those two trips so close together.
I think that's a very valid point. Are you half day?
We're half day, maybe about midday. So, right, if you can get them there, we'll them back home to you, or we will pick them up if you can pick them up. Yeah, we do provide information.
Yeah.
I'm trying right now. My biggest thing is I'm starting working on next year to make sure after this funding, with grants and things through others that we can still offer full day. And I feel like I can. I think my board is supportive, my superintendent and finance director, but that has been a game changer for us is having full day because we just had so many families that want to use preschool because of that. So the percentage of kids who are in an early childhood program increased greatly.
That's that incentive, right?
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Well, it sort of had to coincide where our funds increased because of our enrollment, and then the grant money's leaving. But the grant money's been great because my preschool rooms look like romper room right now. They are great. They're wonderful. It looks like the most expensive preschool you could afford today. We're offering the same thing in Bath County. So that I've been trying to use my grant money to get my rooms ready, knowing that I'm gonna have go off a cliff with money. But because of increased enrollment, I think I'll be able to, if I can get the board to fund one teacher, I'm okay. And I think building.
That's great. I mean, already thinking about like problem solving through, and that's what somebody was asking me, hey, you probably don't even know about, I'm like, I'm already planning. You're like, what are you talking about? Like, looking at our numbers and that, I mean, because you have to stay, because when you're making an ask to, for another site, that's something you do soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. And I mean, this is, our kindergarten teachers have seen such a difference in the behaviors there for a couple of years. But after we had kids in, this is our second year in full day, and we've had more kids that actually take part in our Head Start or us, we've seen a difference, probably the pandemic too, probably timing, but our behaviors have decreased in kindergarten. They can, get ready and start learning in kindergarten. So, preschool's my baby here, and preschool is how to save our county, and our county is the #1 opioid overdose county in the state. So we need it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's very, I'm glad that you shared that. That's very, very great to hear. In that, and just seeing, you said your classroom in Bath County would go up against anybody. Like, I'm just excited for you all to have, have the resources and to be able to build the classrooms, and you can tell you're very excited about it. So, and proud of that. So
I had a very wise parent tell me one time that she didn't say no. Most of the time said yes, and the no's were saying mattered. And that's my teachers. I rarely say no when they need something.
Yeah. I think, and too, when you made that comment though, I was hoping like that's where we want to get in the state so that we, because we have classrooms that we need to change out stuff because it's older, but the funding and things like that we're at an opportunity where we don't have to have grant funds to do those things. Like that we have the funding and again, that's right. Like there's pieces of that we know are, we have to change legislatively, but that it's across the board. Like when we talk about the quality in our program, that it's, if you're walking into Bath County and you walked into Fayette County, it's the same thing. Yep. You're seeing the same thing. So I thank you for sharing that.
The equity, it has to be there between districts.
It does.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the next thing is to get your transfer. But that is like you're saying, you do midday. There is you do the best. I mean, you do the best
you can.
Absolutely. In that, I just hate that, like that it impacts because we did, yeah. I mean, if we didn't offer transportation, I can only imagine the impact that it
Absolutely.
On our program. And the kids are out there, and those things. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Did you say, are you up or down, or did you? You're up.
We started 5 days a week.
Okay, great.
So there's caveats to, like hurt them full day. That
Are you full day?
And I drive up this.
Wow. Wow. That's a hat.
That's a whole different hat.
At one point, like when the bus driver shortage coming off COVID and all that, they were like, if anybody has their, CDL, they're like, drive a bus.
Yeah.
And we were all like, well, like I can drive a high school bus. Like,
Well, thank you.
I can't do that. They said that reminds me, are you gonna get your CDL? Oh,
No, I do have a couple things I want to mention.
Making herself look.
Get the CDL.
But we have the mobile classrooms that don't, children don't ride on those.
Yeah.
But they were saying if we got our CDL, we could drive those. But then if you could drive that, then you may be taxed to drive children. And I'm like, I'll be hitting curves. Like I can't make the big turn. Like I'm like, I don't need to be buying the bus. But kudos to you. I mean that's yeah. I guess you're pink. Like I thought you were giving her.
Oh no.
I was like, yes.
I mean, that is absolutely true, right?
And then did you say you had okay? Perfect.
Just in the advocacy piece, one thing I am advocating for in my district right now is an increase in pay above other instructional aides or assistants for preschool instructional assistants because they do, I say they need hazard pay because they're working in classrooms where they're lifting children, they're diapering children, they're getting bit, hit, kicked, especially more so nowadays. And our district just gave an increase to our special ed instructional assistants in like the HSC classrooms, but did not for preschool. And so I didn't know that was happening until it did happen. And so I was really kind of upset about that, but I'm going to be the squeaky wheel until it happens. But I think that's an important thing because not only do those assistants, they have to work with children in ways that most staff in schools don't have to work with children. But they also have to have more professional development hours than all the other assistants in our district. And they need more specific training because of the needs of these children. And so that's just one thing I wanted to mention because I think it's an important piece. We talk about teachers a lot, but we really need to be talking about all the staff in the classrooms because they're just as vital and doing just as much.
I too am having that conversation and had it for probably the last year and a half or so. So yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Teachers can't do their job without.
No. And in some instance, you need more of them.
Yes.
Because we're all staging.
I know.
You're watching
I think you bring up a really valid point. I think, sometimes when we elevate teacher voices, when we need to elevate the staff voices, everyone that touches that preschool student. Because, as I always say, when the babies come, they look at that, these are my teachers, right? They don't really look at one than the other as a position or a role. So I appreciate you're doing it, and it actually kind of helps me in regards to how we support the class, not the structure, not just the teacher, but making sure that we're elevating the voices of the staff, of everyone who touches that preschool student.
Yeah. I mean, it's really obvious when we have subs in the room.
Yeah.
For assistants.
Yeah.
And subs are used to just sitting at a desk and handing out papers. And so, or even your instructional assistant subs, I mean, your assistant takes over the classroom as a teacher.
100%.
And so it's really, I think it's just, I mean, I see them as additional teachers in the classroom and we talk about that all the time. And I ask them, I try to make sure that I hear their voice and ask them their needs often. And they'll say to me, I need more training in autism. I need to understand why we do this with this child. And so we try to make sure that we hit those things with them as much as we can without overwhelming them because they don't get paid enough to tack on all the extra stuff.
But I don't think the trainings they're not relevant for what I see. And so if we could, as a group, we're small enough, and we could come together, talk to our RTCs and see what all of those directors, all those coordinators are doing. What are they offering for their instructional assistants? And it's maybe something that, if there's a great website that's out there that we could all get on. I think any of those resources would be nice.
Well, and I think the pyramid model, so several of my teachers went through that last year, and our instructional assistants are part of their PLCs. And so during their PLCs, they took a module each week or each month or however long, and did those. And I think that was brilliant. I mean, I'm implementing that now with all of our instructional because that is just a huge piece. And the RTCs, at least in my area, have developed some instructional assistant trainings that are modules they can do on their own time. And they're specific to special needs students really, and just kind of how you work with those, or best practices with special needs students. And so those are some things that we've been offering them as well.
Yeah. You make me think of
Sometimes it's something we just create.
And so I'm wondering too around the assistant teacher pipeline. And so it just makes me wonder, kind of, in your districts, have you had assistant teachers to move into the teaching role and kind of what you're doing in regards to
right now.
The pipeline to
I had 3 applicants, and by the time I called them for interviews, they had already taken other jobs.
Okay.
So she's doing great, but she needs a lot of support.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, that's the other thing is that I really want to see those assistants that are interested in that really grow in that area. And so we've actually had several assistants become teachers over the years.
Good.
So Fayette County has a Grow Your Own program that they just started. And this past school year, we had 4 that were assistants last year that are in teacher roles this year. 4 of those, and 3 of them are minority candidates or minority teachers. 1 is an African-American male. We are like so excited, like it is like just the pipeline that it's creating. And then we have 1 who is the district is supporting in schoolwork, and she will do her student teaching this spring, and she'll be eligible to be a lead teacher in the fall. So because preschool was a critical shortage area and is a critical shortage area, our HR department came to me and was like, hey, would you want to do this? And I was like, yes. So we jumped into it feet first, and it has been a success for us in growing our own teachers and supporting them. And then Fayette County, because K-TIP went away, we do a new teacher induction program in our county. And so those teachers are assigned like they would with a K-TIP, a person, we find them a preschool mentor that walks with them. And this, two of the paras were in preschool last year. And then 2 of them were preschool or were paras in other grade levels, but had subbed in preschool before and really liked it, like that's where they wanted to be. So the ones that were in our classrooms, they had been there for years and knew, but still taking on the lead role is a whole different ballgame. And then the others supporting them as well of just being in a preschool, like consistently being there and meeting needs and stuff. So we've been very fortunate to, because that would have been openings that we would have had.
Yeah.
To have, and there's not a lot of ICE, right now out there, and I know we're all vying for them.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's been, and luckily, HR has said, let's, look at this. They're special ed, they're working with special ed as well, but preschool it has been very successful.
Yes.
In that, yeah. It just makes me, it's just such a cool thing just to watch and be able to support people in their education and then just growing our own in that role. And just having a male teacher, is big. Like we had a male teacher and he was there for a year, and they're just so few and far between. It's big. It's big for us. So, yeah.
My other thing was, this is more of a question, I guess, because bus transportation is such a difficulty right now. I'm very concerned at times, especially towards after, December 1, about the numbers of preschool children on the bus, and only 1 aide monitor on the bus. And so I had dived into regulation to see if there was any regulation about numbers of students on the bus, especially preschool, and there isn't anything out there, but I think that's important as an advocacy piece too, because, I don't know if any of the other districts have this problem, but sometimes we've got 30, we've even had like 45 preschoolers on one bus. And there's no way, there's no way that if they had an accident, to be able to manage those students. And so I've worked with transportation, and we've done some things and like at times have added. But I've been doing this for a long time now. And, this has really just become a conversation we've started having just because the numbers of kids are increasing and the numbers of needs are increasing. And so do you all have any set district kind of rule about how many can be on a bus or?
Our preschool students drive with.
Okay, okay.
Some of our,
So,
So you drive like a real bus then? Not
I was
like-
just thinking it was big.
I did too. It's a big girl bus. Oof, that's an even bigger hat. Still, I mean, sheesh. Giant.
You don't see that problem, yeah.
Christy?
I've had those same concerns and worries. So we just look at the needs of the school bus and the children that are on there. And if we need to add another bus monitor for safety, then we make it happen.
That's kind of what we've done in the most recent years. But
This is just a random question about bus transportation. Do your all students wear safety vests? Seatbelts?
Well, your Head Start, so.
Head Start.
yeah, we do not, unless the student has difficulties, so either physically or behaviorally. So no.
Our district transportation, they require us. So all of our preschool students have to be in seatbelts. And
Which probably limits the number of kids that can be on the bus.
And which are seatbelts that they go in their arms and then now they have leg straps on them.
Oh, wow.
And you have to wear the leg straps so the children, there's a thing on the bus that they click to. I mean, the kids can move in them, it's nothing like.
Yeah.
But and so I had heard different things that was just a county thing or other districts didn't do. So that's what we, so we do that. So it kind of, and every student like that.
Yeah, because you can't.
It's just
three kids in a seat when there's.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I was just curious about that, if it was any gift to Fayette County, but they required that since I was there for 15 years.
Based on size of the child.
Kim, did you want to say something? I saw you pop on.
I think she said she had to go.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, there's a- thank you.
And I will say the harnesses that we use, they're about $150.
Yes, they are.
So we had, our family signed a best agreement at the beginning of the school year, their numbers. So we get them back and they can be laundered. So we work with cleaners in Lexington and launder our seatbelts. Like, Bay County's calling, you got our seatbelts, and we just take turns like going at the end of the year, our transportation department will take them all over there because we have so many. But it's nothing for any of us to be sitting in the cleaning parking lot going to pick up vests, so we can have them for our students. So, but I was just I'm glad that you asked that. But I think it does help, like the children we do have some Houdinis that
Oh, yeah.
get out and we're like, how did you get into that? And when you see the bus video to see it, you can't even see their heads over the seats because, they're just so small or whatever. And then they're up there. But yeah, and I think in instances where we have a larger number, like what Christy was saying, we've added another bus if there was a need. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else have anything for our open discussion? And I think, and I hope and I assume because it was done before, someone will put in the notes some nice little bullet points for us to share at our next regional train. That was very helpful. But just looking at that and then sharing at your next meeting those, and then bringing back any feedback, any teacher voice, any preschool coordinator voice, anything that may be advocacy related, COS, just kind of be the eyes and the ears of our coordinators across the state. That would be great. Thank you all for the discussion today and your input. So next we'll move on to our closing remarks and exit slip. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew.
Sure. I'll actually turn it over to Dr. Williams.
And thank you. So there are two things. The first thing is that I encourage you all to, I don't know if you receive, I hope you receive our news you can use that our social commissioner sends out weekly. And in that section, they do have an opportunity to share best practices. And so I want to elevate that to this group. And, to take back to your colleagues throughout the state is to submit that information, submit preschool best practices, continue to elevate. We want to see it. We want to share it. But we don't know unless you tell us, right? And so, please do that. And again, that's sent out weekly. And I believe it's maybe within the first paragraph, an announcement goes out in regards to best practices that we want to share with other districts. Secondly, in regards to these meetings, we're going to move to a virtual platform. I think it's, when we look at, our schedules and we look at, you all having to come in from your districts. And one thing that we got out of COVID is that we can have these things, we can have these meetings virtually. And so we'll still continue to have the preschool coordinator advisory group, but we're going to move to a virtual setting. Okay. But again, we look forward to these meetings. And I believe the next meeting is in January. And so, Andrea and Misty and team will work with you all in order to make sure that you're able to access the meeting.
That's what, it says January, I believe it's the 16th.
I wasn't sure of the date. I couldn't find a date.
If we do the
Third.
Tuesday, it would be.
We've been doing the Thursdays. We moved to Tuesday because of the SAPEC
right.
meeting.
That's right. I had that for
Okay.
It just says January.
Yeah, I didn't put a date because I couldn't
Yeah.
find one that we had agreed upon.
So the 18th would be the third Thursday.
Now, I'll go back. We did do the fourth Thursday. We moved it up because of, I'll be out of town next week at NASDAQ. So do you want to continue with the third or the fourth?
Does
I mean, that's
anybody
it.
have any preferences? For you guys, it's either a third or fourth? Or anybody have any preference?
Is it something we need to vote on?
My preference is just the Thursdays.
Thursdays is better, yeah.
Do y'all want to say, do y'all want to go back to the last Thursday? Did you say the 25th? Does that work? Okay. So next meeting is the 25th. It'll be from 10 to 12 and it'll be in the online platform.
Yes.
So that's all that I had to share. It's the best practices. To please have you or your colleagues throughout the state to upload that information. We want to share it and to kind of talk around how we move forward with these meetings on a more virtual setting. So I'll turn over to Andrea to give us some closing words.
Sure. So I just appreciate you all. I very much enjoy these, enjoy the conversation, enjoy the feedback that we receive. Really enjoyed leadership meetings this year. I got to go to a couple of them. That was nice. There's a lot on all of our plates, but it's nice to make time to come together to brainstorm and talk and get some things going, and appreciate the accountability of this group holding us to things and helping us to see where we might need to step in as a state. Exit slip, either Misty or I will send that out to you guys to have, and then I have a few housekeeping things with Chris, Susan, and Ashla. Vouchers, but everyone else, we really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
And we'll see you in 2020.
Oh, shush.
Wow.
Man.
All right. All right. Thank you all. Everyone online, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we closed the meeting today. It is 11:02. I'll ask for a motion to close today's meeting. Second. Any discussion? Right, all members in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are now adjourned. Thank you all very much. It's great seeing you guys. Thank you all for the support.